Hey, thanks for making it to Veterans Info Tap. I'm glad you made it today. Today I wanted to talk to you about accessing records, long lost records, records that you haven't seen in a long time, that you had when you were in the military, but you didn't bring them with you when you got out. Now, I've talked about it before, and what's so important about those is creating that nexus for your claim. So if you remember, the three, in my mind anyway, the three main components of any claim is one, prove your service, time in service. Two, prove your diagnosed condition, that it's got some sort of residual effects, and it's chronic in nature, right? It can't just be I was sick once. It has to be an ongoing issue. And then third is the nexus, the link between the condition and your time in service. Now, it's not necessarily that the military caused the condition, but rather that that condition showed up, manifested during your time in service. Now, yes, of course, an in-service event that caused some sort of injury to you or some sort of exposure that led to a condition is obviously something that the VA would consider a service connectable claim. Now, on the other hand, you also have things like, I never had any issues, then I started getting migraine headaches, don't know why, just started getting migraines, or I started getting GERD, bad heartburn, those types of things, without any sort of real tangible, I was exposed by this and now I have this, or there was an in-service event and now I have migraines. So you're really looking at, did it start while you were in service? Now your records, your service treatment records and military records may indicate that either you complained about that, or maybe you had something annotated. You may have on a self-assessment checked something, and it could be in those records or files at least something that can give you something that you could attach a meaningful nexus to. And so I wanted to talk about it because there's an article here from the VA, and the headline on this article from the VA is Accessing Veterans Records from the National Archives or National Personnel Records Center. And I wanted to read through it here real quick for you and just give you the VA's perspective on this. So this came out May 9th, so not too long ago, and the kind of subtitle here is Everything You Need to Know About Accessing Veterans Records from the National Archives or NPRC, which is the National Personnel Records Center. All right, so let's dive into it here. It states, just going to read it. So, are you looking for your service records? Or, and again, super important to have those. So, are you looking for your service records or those of a family member? Also, family members can order records as well for their loved ones. I did it myself for my grandfather who had passed away. Got his records from the Coast or from the Merchant Marines and the Army. So the National Archives in St. Louis, Missouri, is the official repository of millions of records for the military, for all military personnel from all service branches who served during the late 19th and 20th century. Though military personnel files constitute its core holdings, the National Archives at St. Louis is the repository for numerous document types such as the Selective Service System registration cards and classification ledgers that document the military draft between 1940 and 1975. Army General Courts Martial's case files, including an index of records dated 1911 through 1976 and assessing records dated 1940 to 1976, with all records dated through 1917 in our Washington, D.C. building, and those dated approximately 1918 to 1939 in our College Park, Maryland facility. And trade cards describing specific aspects of civilian work in naval shipyards during the late 19th and 20th centuries. The holdings also include personnel files of individuals employed by the civil service, such as the Civilian Conservation Corps, Work Progress Administration, Panama Canal Commission, Department of State, U.S. Customs Service, Bureau of Indian Affairs, and several hundred additional government departments. Now, before I go on, because I know some people drop off, partway through these videos, if you have a loved one or family member in your family tree who served in the military and you don't have their records, order them. It's super easy to do. Order their records. You can also, kind of side note, order presidential memorial certificates, and depending on what side of the fence you're on, as far as a political party, you can wait till there's a president that you want in office and pick that as your time to order it, so you get that president's signature. And it's not the real signature, obviously. It's a lithograph signature, but it's still a cool document, quite frankly. And I mean, I really don't care who signs it. It's just kind of cool to have. So, all right. Military personnel records, archived records. The National Archives, St. Louis, maintains official military personnel files of those service members that were discharged, retired, or deceased 62 years from the current date. These records belong to the National Archives and became archived 62 years after the service member's separation from the military. This is a rolling date. For example, the current year, 2023 minus 62, is 1961. Therefore, records with a discharge date of 1961 and prior are archived and open to the public. Additionally, various records of persons of exceptional prominence, PEP, are also archived and open to the public. Requests for archived records do not require signature. A fire, and you know what? I know there's a lot of you probably who've had to deal with this, and it's a horrific situation, and there's workarounds and all that stuff. If you have pictures and all that, proving that you were wherever you were, and buddy statements and letters and anything you can do to prove your time in the military. So a fire, for those that don't know, a fire in 1973 destroyed 80% of our Army personnel records from 1912 to 1960 and 75% of our Air Force records from 1947 to 1964, with names alphabetically after Hubbard, James E. Such a sad situation. Please keep in mind when requesting a record from these particular service branches, Army and Air Force, that the record may be fire related and require preservation treatment. If this is the case, it will take several weeks to either receive a copy of the record if requested by mail, or view the record in archived research room if visiting the facility in person. Non-archived records of individuals who left service less than 62 years ago are not yet archived. These non-archived records are maintained at the National Personnel Records Center, but remain in legal custody of the military service departments. A non-archived OMPF is open to the veteran and the next of kin or a third-party requester who has the veteran's written authorization. Under the provisions of FOIA, the general public may only obtain limited information from these records. Requests for non-archived records must be signed and dated. A request for a military personnel record, archived or non-archived, should include the veteran's complete name used in service, a service number, which is sometimes their social, branch of service, date and place of birth, and dates of service. For archived and non-archived request, submit a letter or standard form SF-180. So standard form is SF. So the SF-180 with the above information to, and actually if you pull up the SF-180, it'll have the address of where to send it. So anyway, 1 Archives Drive, St. Louis, Missouri, 63138, and I'll put all this information in the description. Or request an archived or non-archived record via eVetsRecs. Visit our website. There's a hyperlink, and follow the steps provided. Official military personnel files as well as auxiliary records may also be viewed by visiting our research room. If you would like to view archived records, you must schedule an appointment with the research room via Eventbrite. And that concludes that. But it is really important for you if you're filing a claim. 2, if you have a family member that you're trying to file a claim for. 3, if you're a surviving spouse, dependent, parent of a service member who you're trying to get the documentation for dependency indemnity compensation. There might be something in there that you would be able to utilize. And then just for keepsakes for loved ones who have passed on or what have you, getting that information and having a copy of their some of their records is just a nice keepsake to move along. And again, I'm going to kind of double tap on the Presidential Memorial Certificate for those loved ones that have passed, family members. It's kind of nice again to have something to have a kind of a hand-me-down through the family. And by the way, on those Presidential Memorial Certificates, if you order them, you can order 5, 6, 12, it doesn't matter. So if you can sprinkle them through your family, if you have a big family, and they come on a thick cardstock paper with a nice big presidential seal on there, and again, the lithographed president seal. So, and that's free for us. So that'll conclude it. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. I appreciate all the support. I'll keep the information coming. And remember, if we don't take care of each other, something went wrong.